powerful, the rookie. Takes some hard to the cup. Leads from McCullough. Iverson behind his back. Yes!
From a boy raised in the slums by a young single mother, turning to crime and landing in prison at a very young age, Iverson rose to become one of the greatest icons of the NBA, a man who brought the spirit of hip-hop to the hardwood. Iverson quickly became a multimillionaire. He indulged in a lavish lifestyle, burning through piles of cash at nightclubs, willingly splurging on extravagant gifts like supercars, jewelry, houses, and funding all expenses-paid trips for those he considered friends. Yet, those very actions came at a steep price for the Philadelphia 76ers legend. How could a boy who once faced hunger, poverty, and even the bars of a prison cell shine so brightly on the basketball court? And what consequences did his relentless partying bring upon Iverson? Let's dive into the lesser-known corners of Allen Iverson's life and career right now. Growing up with a single mother and a harsh 15-year prison sentence. Before becoming the answer of the NBA, living in an expensive mansion and driving rare supercars, Iverson's childhood was a tear-soaked tale of hardship. Who could believe he grew up in poverty alongside a teenage mother with nothing to her name? Join me as we travel back to those days in Hampton, Virginia, where young Allen Iverson came of age in adversity, only to rise from it as an icon. Born on June 7, 1975, in the arms of Ann Iverson, a single mother just 15 years old, Allen's father, Alan Broughton, was never part of the family picture. A young girl, barely more than a child herself, cradled her son in a rundown apartment in Newport News, where sewage sometimes spilled onto the floor due to broken plumbing. Ann worked tirelessly, but her meager wages couldn't cover the bills. There were days when Allen and his younger sisters faced hunger, cold, and the instability that poverty brings. In a later interview, Iverson shared that his mother was everything: his father, his mother, and his sole anchor amid life's storms. But life didn't stop at poverty. When Allen was 13, Michael Freeman, a man who was like a father to him, was arrested in front of the boy for drug trafficking. That moment, watching the man he leaned on being handcuffed and taken away, carved a silent pain into Allen's soul. It was a stark reminder that the world out there wasn't kind, and to survive, he had to be tougher than it all. Yet, amid that darkness, a light flickered on the basketball courts. At Bethel High School, Allen found joy and freedom in basketball and football. He didn't just play, he dominated. With lightning speed and rare grit, he led both the basketball and football teams to Virginia state championships. Friends called him Bubba Chuck, a warm nickname from his street-roaming days. But fate dealt another blow. In 1993, at just 17, Allen got caught up in a brawl at a bowling alley. A racially charged melee erupted, and though the evidence was shaky, he was convicted. The result? A 15-year sentence with 10 years suspended, a stain that seemed poised to end all his dreams. But like a fire smoldering in the ashes, Allen didn't give up. Thanks to clemency from Virginia Governor L. Douglas Wilder, he was freed after 4 months. Then, Georgetown University opened its arms to him, the starting point of a journey to change his fate. Those childhood days, full of tears and scars, forged an Allen Iverson who feared nothing, ready to step into the 1996 NBA draft and prove that from ashes, a legend could rise. Allen's childhood wasn't a fairy tale, but a song of resilience, a melody that resonates with anyone who's fallen yet stood back up. It reminds us that sometimes the darkest days lay the foundation for the brightest glory. From a childhood of loss, it was time for Allen Iverson to take the big stage, where he'd use his talent and willpower to make the world take notice of a small-statured baller who made everyone look up, including the great Michael Jordan. The tiny rookie who outshone Michael Jordan. Imagine standing before a 6'6" giant, outweighing you by dozens of pounds, yet somehow you still make him look up to you. That was Allen Iverson in the NBA, a small man, barely 6 feet tall, with the heart of an unbreakable warrior. His career wasn't just about stats or trophies. It was a story of rising above doubt, pressure, and failure to become a legend. This is the journey of the answer, a man who answered every question with sweat, tears, and raw talent. The first breakthrough, Philadelphia 76ers and the $1 Million Rookie, 1996 to 1997. It all began in 1996 when the Philadelphia 76ers selected Allen Iverson as the #1 pick, one pick in the NBA draft. With a slender frame and a streetball style, he entered the league like an outsider among giants. Many scoffed, "He'll get crushed." But Iverson didn't care. In his rookie season, he averaged 23.5 points per game, leading the team with unprecedented speed and audacity, earning the Rookie of the Year award. The iconic moment, when he crossed over Michael Jordan, the living legend of basketball, not once, but twice in a single game. The crowd roared, and Iverson proved he wasn't just there to play. He was there to change the game. His first season's salary was $2.26 million, a modest sum by today's standards, but enough to let him taste the first rays of success after years of struggle. It was the start of a bigger dream. Career peak, MVP, and a trip to the NBA Finals, 2000 to 2001. If there's one season that defines Allen Iverson, it's 2000 to 2001. After years of doubters criticizing his individuality and selfish play style, he silenced them all with a career-defining performance. Averaging 31.1 points per game, Iverson carried a seemingly weak 76ers team all the way to the NBA Finals. He won the MVP award, the smallest player ever to do so in league history. But the moment that grips your heart was Game 1 of the Finals against the Shaq and Kobe-led Los Angeles Lakers. Iverson dropped 48 points, including a step-back jumper over Tyronn Lue, then stepped over Lue as if to declare, "This is my court." Though the 76ers lost the series, that image lives on, a small man standing tall against the world. That season, he earned about $10.1 million in salary, not counting endorsement deals with Reebok, pushing his annual income past $20 million. Money came, fame followed, but the pressure grew heavier. Ups and downs, from glory to struggles, 2002 to 2006. After the peak came the storm. Iverson clashed frequently with coach Larry Brown and faced criticism for skipping practices, leading to his infamous "We talking about practice?" rant at a press conference. His voice trembled, not from anger, but from the frustration of a man who'd given everything yet still felt misunderstood. The team's performance slipped, and Iverson became the scapegoat for the blame. Still, he didn't quit. From 2002 to 2006, he maintained peak individual form, averaging over 30 points per season. His salary rose to around $14 to $16 million annually, but money couldn't erase the loneliness as the team faded from championship contention. Iverson kept playing like every game was his last, pushing through physical pain, bruises, falls, to prove he'd never surrender. A new journey, Denver, Detroit, and the return, 2006 to 2010. In December 2006, Iverson was traded to the Denver Nuggets in a blockbuster deal. There, he rediscovered his love for the game alongside Carmelo Anthony, averaging 26.4 points in the 2006 to 2007 season. His salary hovered around $17 million, but what he craved wasn't just money. It was a championship ring. Sadly, the Nuggets couldn't break through in the playoffs. Then came the drifting years. Detroit Pistons, Memphis Grizzlies, and a return to the 76ers in 2009. At 34, his legs weren't as quick, but his eyes still burned with fire. His farewell game in Philly in 2010, stepping onto the court as the crowd chanted his name, brought silent tears, not of sadness, but of gratitude for the years gone by. His income dwindled to $1 to $2 million per season, but Iverson's worth was never measurable in dollars. Legacy and final numbers. Iverson officially retired in 2013, leaving behind a career with 24,368 points and a 26.7 points per game average, one of the greatest scoring guards in history. In total, he earned over $154 million in NBA salaries, plus tens of millions from Reebok deals. But his legacy isn't in the numbers, it's in how he inspired, from wild crossovers and fearless drives to an unyielding spirit. Have you ever felt life backed you into a corner? Iverson did too, but he stood up step by step to become an icon. He wasn't just the answer in basketball, he was the answer for anyone who'd ever doubted themselves. From the moment he stepped into the NBA, Allen Iverson didn't just change the league, he carved a path from poverty to the pinnacle of fame and fortune, rising to the peak of fame with hundreds of millions of dollars. It started with real estate, the bricks and mortar of Iverson's rise. At the height of his career, he owned a luxurious mansion in Villanova, Pennsylvania, purchased in 1999 for $2.5 million. The 14,000-square-foot home boasted 6 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, a home theater, and an indoor basketball court, a space that mirrored the Answer's extravagant lifestyle. But life wasn't always rosy. When his finances crashed in 2012, Iverson was forced to sell the mansion for just $2.2 million, a $300,000 loss from the original price. A blow to his pride, but not the end. After the financial storm, Iverson sought a comeback. In 2006, he bought another mansion in Alpharetta, Georgia, for $2.19 million. The 5,985-square-foot home featured 7 bedrooms, a pool, and a tennis court, a symbol of recovery. Yet, by 2018, he listed it for $1.14 million, eventually selling it for just $725,000 after multiple price cuts. These numbers aren't just money, they're a story of falling and rising again. Despite the losses, Iverson refused to drown in failure. He maintained the demeanor of a man who'd once stood at the top, and now, as vice president of basketball operations at Reebok, he's rebuilding his dream step by step. Now, let's talk about his car collection, Iverson's explosive passion, where he showcased his personality and unmatched wealth. Estimated at a total value of $807,000, it's a testament to his unbreakable spirit. First up, the Mercedes-Maybach 57S, a $400,000 jewel. With a 603-horsepower engine and a top speed of 155 miles per hour, this car wasn't just transportation, it was a symbol of luxury. Iverson drove it through Philadelphia's streets, as if shouting to the world that he'd overcome every obstacle to stand here. Next, the Bentley Continental GT, worth about $200,000 with handcrafted leather interiors and blazing speed. It was Iverson's pride during his golden 76ers days, but the most memorable moment? When he gifted it to teammate Larry Hughes after a casual remark, "I want one like that." That generosity was both his strength and his financial wound. And don't forget the Lamborghini Murcielago, a $150,000 beast seized by police in 2011 because Iverson couldn't produce the paperwork. He shrugged it off. "Take it, I've got 10 more." A boast as arrogant as it was heartbreaking, knowing he'd soon have almost nothing left. The collection also included a Cadillac Escalade, $60,990. An SUV caught up in drama when found with a broken window and blood, though police later deemed it a prank by kids. And the Hummer H1 Alpha HX, around $100,000, a rugged ride Iverson sold after just 3,500 miles. These cars weren't just assets, they were pieces of a turbulent life where Iverson lived to the fullest. Consequences be damned. But Iverson's wealth wasn't just in cars or homes. He has a lifetime Reebok deal paying $800,000 annually and a $32 million trust fund he can access in 2030 at age 55. From declaring bankruptcy in 2012, unable to afford a cheeseburger, Iverson is now rebuilding his empire. He's partnered with Al Harrington in the cannabis industry, launching the Iverson Collection, and plans to open a seafood restaurant in Virginia. His current net worth is about $1 million, but with these moves, the future promises much more. Allen Iverson's wealth story is a symphony of highs and lows. From million-dollar mansions to a car collection that turned heads, he lived without regrets. Though he once lost it all, he found a way to rise again, turning pain into fuel. Looking at Iverson, you see a man who fought not just on the court, but in life itself, an inspiring figure whose resilience and zest for life stir the heart. This isn't just a tale of money, it's the story of a legend's undying spirit. With considerable wealth, Iverson built a world of his own, a place where lights, music, and extravagant jewelry told the story of the NBA's most lavish life. Spending lavishly at nightclubs. Allen Iverson, the answer, wasn't just a legend on the basketball court, he was an icon of a lavish, unique lifestyle, turning every dollar he earned into deeply personal experiences. Beyond the crossovers that captivated fans, Iverson had his own pleasures, embracing life with the same boldness and passion he brought to his game. Step into his world, where money wasn't just a number, it was a key to unlocking pure joy. One of Iverson's greatest pleasures was his love for nightclubs, not just a place to unwind, but a stage where he shone in his own way. During his peak years with the Philadelphia 76ers, he was a regular at hotspots like Club Shadows in Newport News or upscale Philly venues after games. With a bottle of Dom Perignon in hand, Iverson didn't hesitate to drop thousands of dollars a night to turn the space into his personal party. It was where he lost himself in hip-hop, the sound that shaped him, dancing as if tomorrow didn't exist. Witnesses recall that when Iverson walked in, the room erupted, lights and bass blending with his unstoppable energy. But his indulgences didn't stop at the flickering lights of the clubs. Iverson was obsessed with collecting jewelry, pieces that weren't just expensive, but carried his unmistakable flair. From chunky gold chains to oversized diamond rings, he turned himself into a living work of art. In a GQ interview, he once shared that the joy of wearing these items wasn't just in their value, but in the feeling of freedom, of being himself. His diamond-encrusted The Answer chain, worth tens of thousands, wasn't just jewelry. It was a statement from a man who'd risen from adversity to the top. Then there was his quirky love for Monopoly, a seemingly simple pastime he elevated into a lavish showdown. According to Bleacher Report, whether on road trips with Bethel High or later with the 76ers, he'd host hours-long games in hotel rooms, stacks of fake gold bills in hand, and laughter echoing through. It wasn't just a game, it was how he savored competition and control, qualities that made him a court dominator. He played with playoff intensity, and that joy was infectious, making you smile just thinking about it. Iverson's life was a symphony of luxury and burning passion. He used money to buy moments, from costly champagne amid thumping music, to the gleam of diamonds around his neck, to the roll of dice on a Monopoly board. It was his way of telling the world that after all the battles, he deserved to live fully. Looking at him, you could feel an unquenchable fire, a flame that turned every second into a masterpiece, warming your heart with its freedom and pride. Allen Iverson didn't just spend money to enjoy himself. He used it to define himself, to live on his terms. But that instinctive lifestyle paved the way for massive troubles, turning a millionaire into a pauper in the blink of an eye. From millionaire to shocking bankruptcy. From a poor kid in Hampton, Virginia, to a basketball superstar, Iverson lived a dramatic life where every step was a double-edged sword, both an inspiration and an indelible stain. Let's revisit the moments that turned people away, the scandals that shook the Answers legacy. It started in 1993 when Iverson, just 17, got caught up in a brawl at a bowling alley in his hometown. A racially charged chaos broke out, and though there was no clear evidence he started it or hurt anyone, he was sentenced to 15 years in prison for maiming by mob. 4 months behind bars later, Virginia Governor Douglas Wilder granted him clemency due to insufficient evidence. But the criminal label stuck, a dark shadow that trailed him throughout his career, making people eye him with suspicion as if he'd always be the troublemaker from the streets. Then, in 2002, a bigger scandal hit. Iverson was accused of storming into a relative's house with a gun, searching for his wife, Tawana, after kicking her out during an argument. Police searched high and low. Headlines screamed, "NBA star threatens with weapon." Though no gun was found and the case was dropped, the image of Iverson as a man ready to resort to domestic violence stuck in the public's mind. Can you imagine that feeling? A man once celebrated, now seen as unhinged, a stain no highlight reel could wash away. That same year, the infamous practice rant was born. After a disappointing 76ers season, Iverson repeated practice 22 times in a press conference, mocking questions about his absences. "We talking about practice, not a game," became a meme, but behind the laughs was outrage. Coach Larry Brown had publicly called him lazy, and now the public saw an arrogant superstar who didn't respect the sport that made him. It was the tipping point, from a warrior on the court to a selfish figure in many eyes. But the fatal blow didn't come from the court. It came from the bills. Allen Iverson fell into bankruptcy just a few years after leaving the NBA. About 60% of NBA players go broke post-retirement, but Iverson's case stood out. He treated money like dust, never considering business investments. Iverson once revealed an income of $62,500, but spent $360,000 a month before going bust. He always had a posse of about 50 friends tagging along during his wealthy days. Iverson was generous, footing the bill for every outing with friends and family. He didn't hesitate to buy pricey gifts like supercars, jewelry, houses, and bankroll entire vacations for them. Former teammate Matt Barnes revealed Iverson often dropped $40,000 a night at strip clubs. His spending was so wild that fans were stunned when he abandoned a car simply because he forgot where he parked it, buying a new one instead of searching. In 2012, Iverson filed for bankruptcy, unable to pay an $859,000 debt to a jeweler. Those loyal friends from his glory days, they vanished just as fast. The world once loved Iverson for his grit, but these scandals painted a different picture, a man whose ego and personal mistakes dimmed his shine. No one denies his talent, but his name now conjures up jail, guns, and defiance. Iverson's journey is a cautionary tale that even at the top, a few missteps can turn the world against you, leaving you with loneliness and shattered memories. After irreversible mistakes, Iverson didn't just lose his reputation. He lost the once happy family he cherished. A stormy, violent marriage. Behind the court spotlight was a turbulent marriage and private life, where love, pain, and hope intertwined. His story with Tawana Turner isn't a fairy tale. It's a raw journey that touches the depths of the heart, leaving you both heartbroken and in awe of what they endured together. Iverson met Tawana in high school in Hampton, Virginia. She was his teenage sweetheart, witnessing his rise from poverty to NBA stardom. In 2001, they married in a quiet New Jersey ceremony as Iverson peaked with the 76ers. With 5 kids, Tiara, Allen II, Isaiah, Messiah, and Dream, their family seemed picture perfect. But reality was far harsher. Tawana wasn't just a wife, she was a rock for a man scarred by his past. In rare interviews, she spoke of her love. I stayed because I saw the real Allen, not the star. Yet their marriage soon turned into a battlefield. In 2002, the biggest scandal erupted when Iverson kicked Tawana out in a rage, then allegedly stormed a relative's home with a gun to find her and the kids. Though it didn't lead to a conviction, the crack it left was irreparable. The public saw a violent Iverson, but few knew Tawana quietly endured nights of his drinking and partying. In divorce filings, she later revealed his gambling addiction, reckless spending, and neglect of family. In 2010, she filed for divorce, seeking custody and a third of his assets, a blow that left Iverson, who declared bankruptcy in 2012, reeling. But the story didn't end in ruin. Months after their 2013 divorce was finalized, Iverson and Tawana reconciled, choosing to mend things without legal remarriage. In his 2016 Hall of Fame speech, he tearfully said of her, "The most important person in my life, Tawana Iverson. 24 years, every up and down, but that's real love. I can't thank you enough for all you've done for me." It was a rare glimpse of the fearless court warrior bearing a tender heart, overflowing with gratitude for the woman who stood by him through every storm. Though not officially remarried, they still appear hand in hand at events, proof that love can heal even the deepest wounds. Iverson's private life is a book of tears and hope. From Tawana standing by him amid scandals and pressure to their split and reunion, it's the journey of two imperfect people who kept trying. In them, you see the silent battles of every home, where love is tested, torn apart, yet still flickers with light. Iverson wasn't just the answer on the court, he learned to answer for his own life. Despite drowning in scandals and wreckage, Iverson remains an irreplaceable NBA icon, thanks to his fiery play, bold street style, and influence that stretches far beyond the game. The man who brought hip-hop to the NBA. On the court, Iverson was a symbol of unyielding will. Standing just 6 feet tall, he took on giants, leading the Philadelphia 76ers to the 2001 NBA Finals and earning MVP honors that same year. But his true impact lies in how he lived, authentic, fearless, and forever tied to his roots. He brought street style, cornrows, tattoos covering his body into the NBA, paving the way for a generation of players to be themselves. LeBron James once said, "He represented black kids, every dream from the ghetto." That's Iverson's power. He made people believe that no matter how low you start, you can still shine. Beyond his skills, Iverson reshaped the NBA's image in the 21st century. Under the late Commissioner David Stern, the league aimed to grow basketball globally. Before that, it focused on gaining fans in Middle America, where people loved the game and were willing to pay big for tickets. Then Iverson arrived, playing the wildest brand of basketball with a style all his own. He was the spark that fused hip-hop with the NBA. His cornrows, tattoos, and expressive faces on the court changed the league's standards forever. He was the perfect blend of hip-hop and basketball, Dwyane Wade said of Iverson's impact. Off the court, Iverson's charity work reflects his big heart. He founded the Crossover Foundation, focusing on helping struggling youth, from handing out Christmas gifts at Boys and Girls Clubs to hosting charity games in the Philippines. He partnered with the 76ers Foundation, bringing education and sports opportunities to kids who were once like him. In 2014, during a trip to the Philippines, he didn't just play ball, he inspired, showing that someone jailed at 17 could still rise and lift others up. Iverson never forgot his roots. Even in 2012, when he was broke and said he couldn't afford a cheeseburger, he still found ways to give back. That's when you realize he didn't do charity for fame. He knew what it felt like to be left behind. Iverson's influence is a breeze through cold streets, a light in the eyes of kids who thought dreams were out of reach. He's living proof that no matter how harsh life gets, you can rebuild with your own hands, not just for yourself, but for those around you. Once a worry to the world with his off-court stumbles, today's Iverson is rewriting his story. Quieter, deeper, yet still fueled by the same daring spirit to live and change. A stable life returns with smart investments. Today, Allen Iverson lives in Charlotte, North Carolina, close to 3 of his 5 children, Tiora, Allen II, Isaiah, Messiah, and Dream, from his broken marriage to Tawana Turner, finalized in 2013. The wild party nights and reckless spending are now just memories. Instead, he's chosen a quieter life, finding joy with his kids, who remind him of what truly matters after years of drifting. Since October 2023, Iverson has served as Vice President of Basketball Operations at Reebok, working alongside Shaquille O'Neal to scout young talent and shape the brand's strategy. His lifetime Reebok deal brings in $800,000 a year. Not a fortune compared to his peak, but enough to keep him steady and maintain his mark on the sport that made him a star. Looking ahead to 2025, Iverson is nurturing ambitious plans. He aims to open a seafood and soul food restaurant in his Virginia hometown, a place to bring the flavors of his childhood, the meals his mom once cooked, to the world. It's more than a business. It's a way to reconnect with his origins, the tough days that forged his unbreakable spirit. He's also partnering with Al Harrington in the cannabis brand Viola, growing the Iverson Collection. This isn't just about money, it's an effort to shift perceptions of something society once shunned, a bold move true to Iverson's nature. But what makes his heart race most is June 7th, 2030, when he turns 55 and can access a $32 million Reebok Trust Fund, a reward for his years of dedication. It's a light at the end of the tunnel, proof that even after hitting rock bottom, he's got a shot to start over. The Iverson of 2025 isn't just living for now. He's living to show that from the ashes of failure, a man can rise stronger and prouder than ever. He's a living testament that life never runs out of hope, as long as you keep believing in yourself. In closing, we take no responsibility for any interpretations or applications of this video's content. Viewers should evaluate, verify, and absorb it selectively. We offer our heartfelt thanks for taking the time to watch this. Every story we share about Allen Iverson is a labor of love, hoping to bring you a spark of inspiration from his roller coaster journey, from the hardest days to the light of hope ahead. If you found this video worthwhile, please hit the like button. It's a huge motivator for us to keep telling meaningful stories. Share it if you think someone else needs to hear this, a small act that can ripple far. And if you haven't subscribed, hit that red button. We promise content you won't be able to look away from. Thanks for joining us, and see you in the next video.